Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the men's basketball team will face rival Purdue on Saturday, and Jack Grossman joins us in studio to talk about their must-win game.
And the women's basketball team look to continue their hot streak on Thursday night when they hosted 13th ranked Maryland. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of season 19 of IU Sports Show Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Maya Engel, joined by a Hoosier Sports Night debut, Haley Jordan.
Yes, Maya, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And the debut hits on an extra special week since earlier this week, the nation celebrated National Girls and Women in Sports Day. So what better way to celebrate than by having two female co-hosts?
I could not agree more. But before we give you all of this week's highlights, we want to thank all of the athletic women who serve as role models, not only for us here at IU, but for the whole country.
Shout out to Erin Andrews, who absolutely dominates the sidelines. And I also have to give a shout out to my former neighbor, Bridget Sloan, who was a 2008 Olympic silver medalist in gymnastics.
So we will be seeing some more powerful female athletes in tonight's show. But for now, let's get started.
Starting us off this evening, let's take a look at men's basketball and exactly what will be at stake in their next few games. Jack Grossman is in studio to talk more about it.
Thanks, Haley. Well, here we go again. IU is on a 3-game losing streak in the middle of conference play due to a late game collapse against Maryland and not one but 2 uninspiring road losses last week. The skid has pushed the Hoosiers towards the edge of the NCAA tournament bubble. Sounds familiar, right? The recent struggles have pushed Saturday's home game against Purdue firmly into the must-win category, or at least as far in that direction as a game in early February can be. The biggest reason isn't because it's a rivalry game or the fact that Archie Miller is 0-3 against IU's biggest in-state foe. It's that, quite frankly, Saturday's home tilt versus Purdue is one of the best chances the Hoosiers have the rest of the season to win a basketball game. Yes, the Boilermakers do pose some issues. They're a top 15 defensive team in the KenPom efficiency ratings, and as we all know, IU isn't exactly proficient offensively. On the other end of the floor, Matt Harms and Travion Williams provide the type of inside prowess that has recently given IU issues, examples including Ohio State's Caleb Wesson and Maryland's Jalen Smith. In addition, the Hoosiers will have to defend high ball screens at a much higher level to keep the Purdue bigs from getting easy buckets off rolls or give up wide open three-pointers. However, Purdue may be the one program in college hoops that is worse than IU when it comes to playing on the road. The Boilermakers own a putrid 1-6 record in true road games, with their lone win being a 3-point victory over a Northwestern team that, let's be honest, I'm pretty sure my high school team could beat. In Purdue's 6 road defeats, 3 were by double digits, and a 6-point loss at Michigan is the only defeat that Purdue came within at least 2 possessions of getting a victory. Getting any win in the Big Ten is going to be difficult, especially since IU doesn't have another game with either Northwestern or Nebraska on the schedule. So to have a chance to play a 10-loss team at home gives IU one of its best chances to get back into the win column. With a victory, the Hoosiers end their skid and maintain a fairly clean path to March Madness. But if IU falls, the idea of Indiana basketball missing the big dance for the 8th time in the past 12 seasons begins to loom large. Back to you guys at the desk.
A game that will certainly tell all. Tip-off is set for 2 p.m. Saturday at Assembly Hall. Will the Hoosiers improve their conference record or lose to their rival?
The 18th ranked women's basketball team went on a 4-game win streak after losing to Maryland at the end of January. Then on Thursday night, the Hoosiers got a chance at redemption when the Terrapins came to town, and Jimmy Sutton was at Assembly Hall to break down the action.
The Hoosiers got off to a good start against number 13 Maryland on Thursday night, but after a troublesome third quarter, Indiana fell apart and lost 79-69. The Hoosiers shot just 33% in the quarter, compared to Maryland's 73%. Maryland got up by 10 and didn't look back. Indiana got hurt in a lot of places, and Brenna Wise knows exactly where that was.
She creates a lot for her team as well. She draws a lot of attention, and they have threats on the floor as well. They've got shooters and drivers. So I think we needed to do a better job of limiting that dribble penetration, which she thrives on. And then, you got kick out shooters. And second chance points is a big deal. They had 13 second chance points, and they scored 14 points on our turnovers. That's where that hurts.
After a game with 17 turnovers and only shooting 61% from the charity stripe, Indiana has some things to work on in their upcoming games. The loss puts Indiana at 18-6 on the season and 8-4 in Big Ten play.
The Hoosiers' next game begins a 2-game road trip, starting with Nebraska on Sunday and then later in the week on Thursday against Illinois. For IUSTV Sports, I'm Jimmy Sutton.
Next up, the Hoosiers will continue conference play in Lincoln, Nebraska, as they face off against the Cornhuskers on Sunday at 3 p.m.
Indiana wrestling has been off to a rocky start with a season record of 1-8. Here's Jackson Kinney and Will Trubshaw to break down IU's loss against 5th-ranked Minnesota.
What's going on, guys? It's your IUSTV wrestling reporters Will Trubshaw and Jackson Kinney. We're here breaking down the wrestling team's latest matchup. It was a duel against the number 5 Minnesota Golden Gophers, and man, it was not close. From the get-go, Minnesota had the upper hand. Fernie Silver for IU at the 157. Kept it close for the very first bout. They went into a sudden victory, and it looked like Silver was going to pull it out, but he didn't, and from there it was all downhill. Jackson, break it down for us.
Right, Fernie had a great first match, went into overtime, just barely lost it on a takedown call. And then the next 5 matches were all Minnesota. 4 pins, 1 technical fall win for the Golden Gophers, and even after that, it didn't get much better for the Hoosiers. They had a forfeit in the 125 class, which gave them 6 points, where Liam Cronin would have wrestled, but the Minnesota wrestler of that class was injured. And then Caden Rooks beat Boo Dryden in a pretty good match, 4 overtimes, where there was a whole dispute at the end of normal time about the riding time clock that would have given the Minnesota wrestler Boo Dryden an extra point, but it just went to overtime, and Caden pulled it out in 4. So that was a very fun, exciting match. But that was about the only bright spot for the Hoosiers today.
I thought Caden did a great job figuring out a way to win. I mean, it's hard when your team is getting beat up the way that we were, and to come out there and kind of swing the duel in a sense of getting a tough match in overtime and finding a way to get up on top. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy. You see your teammates going off one by one, and then you got to get yourself up. But he did a great job. Yeah,
that match with Rooks and Dryden really got the crowd into it. A lot of big Minnesota contingent here, but a lot of IU fans as well. Made for an exciting bout and day that was really kind of unexciting. It was Minnesota most of the way, and again, IU lost on Friday to the Wisconsin Badgers, so an 0-2 weekend here. The Hoosiers dropped to 1-8, but the schedule does kind of lighten up at the end. They've got a couple more home duels. Next one of those is against Nebraska next weekend. So until then, for IUSTV Sports, I'm Will Trubshaw.
And I'm Jackson Kinney.
See you next time.
Don't miss IU's chance at redemption against Nebraska this Sunday, 1 p.m.
Softball season officially begins this weekend for Shonda Stanton and her team as the Hoosiers head down to Florida to compete in a 5-game tournament. The team will be a part of the Black and Gold tournament in Orlando. The tourney includes UCF, Duke, St. John's, and Clemson. Coming off of a historic season, Shonda Stanton and the Hoosiers look to replicate or even improve from the 14-0 start they had just a year ago.
Well, it's like any other opening weekend. You're excited to get out there and you want to get out to a start fast. And what that means is you want to dominate the details. Are we able to do the little things? Because, we never focus on winning the game. We focus on win the moment, win the pitch, and win means what's important now. And I really like, where we are. They're pretty fired up, and who isn't? It's opening weekend. You're going to get down to some warmer weather and finally get against outside competition.
You can listen to the radio broadcast of the games on IUHoosiers.com, where you can hear toss-up panelist Sam Niederman on the call.
IU Swim and Dive claimed 1 win and 1 loss this weekend. The men swept the Cardinals by 42 points, while the women fell to Louisville in a close meet. Despite the team loss on the women's side, IU's Cora Dupree dominated the freestyle competition, claiming the top spot in the 200, 100, and 50-yard freestyle events. And she wasn't the only one to dominate those events, as Bruno Blaskovich won the 50 and 100-yard freestyle, as well as the 400 free relay on the men's side. Up next for Swim and Dive, the women await the Big Ten Championship in a couple of weeks. And as for the men, they'll compete in the NCAA First Chance Meet in Bloomington on February 22nd.
Baseball is back in Bloomington, and Jeff Mercer is heading into his second season at the helm for the Hoosiers. During his first year as head coach, his team finished with a Big Ten regular season title, and Mercer was named Big Ten Coach of the Year. But the Hoosiers struggled in postseason play and dropped 4 of their 5 tournament games. With a new mindset and some new faces on the roster, Coach Mercer and his team have high expectations for the 2020 season. After a program-high 10 Hoosiers were selected to the 2019 MLB draft, Coach Mercer will look to some of the older players like Cole Barr and Jeremy Houston to step up into the leadership roles and help prepare the new players. The Hoosiers will kick off their season with a tough non-conference schedule, which Coach Mercer hopes will benefit his team in the long run.
But going out, put them in big environments, helps them because that's what you want to be able to do late in the season. You want to be the best team you can be in the last month. And so being able to be in big environments and to be able to play pressure-packed baseball really helps to shape the character of you and your toughness.
Coach Mercer and his Hoosiers will open their season with a 3-game road trip starting February 14th against 11th-ranked LSU. When Hoosier Sports Night continues, Maxwell Glenn dives into the pool to get a special interview with IU water polo head coach Taylor Dotson.
And coming up, see how men's tennis matched up against Notre Dame. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night. What's the best way to get to know women's water polo coach Taylor Dotson? Interview on her own turf, of course, or in this case, the pool. Here's Maxwell Glenn trading in the mic for swim trunks.
Well, I think I did great against Mary, only losing by 2 lengths, and we're definitely putting that in the win column. It's now Max's turn to dive in with Coach Dotson as they discuss her first year in the lead up to the season.
I'm here with Coach Dotson. We're going to talk about her transition into head coaching and also a recent trip to Italy for the team. Now, Coach, you've recently taken the reins of this program. What's the transition been like from assistant to head coach?
A lot of things that I think I benefited from having been at IU already and already knowing the team. I recruited 2 of the classes who are already here, so I think part of that made the transition pretty seamless. So far, everything has been great, and with one of our major goals for the year being to change the culture of the team and establish a positive culture as we move forward and lay down a foundation for the future. So far, that's been great.
And now you mentioned culture. This recent trip to Italy, is that something you think benefited the culture and kind of the camaraderie between the teammates?
Absolutely. So at this point in the fall in our off season, it gets pretty monotonous of playing. We're beating up on each other every day in practice, and so that trip was really good for us to play other opponents, really kind of see how we play, and then we learned so much too about how to operate under chaos. Being able to face adversity and then how do we react and how do we overcome that. I think we learned a lot of that while in Italy. We ended the trip playing some pieces of really high level water polo, and I think it gave us a little taste of how good we can be.
And now why did you choose Italy as a place to take your team?
There's a lot of teams that we're able to train with and play against. The culture and seeing the history, and then the food. Going internationally, you never really know what the food is going to be like, but pretty much everybody loves Italian food. So having a team that's happy with the food on a trip for 10 days is really important.
And now you guys are approaching the regular season. What can we expect from the team looking forward into the season and potentially in the future as well?
I think you're going to see a team that really grinds. We play a really tough non-conference and conference schedule. One thing that has definitely changed in training from last year to this year is just how competitive it is. We have, 9 freshmen, and they are super competitive, really fiery, really feisty, and I think that's going to translate more than anything else into us being really competitive and never backing down.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us here on Diving In. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Catch the team on the road this weekend at the UCSD Invitational, where they will first face off against 9th-ranked UC Davis.
The women's tennis team had a busy weekend as they hosted Kentucky, Xavier, and Western Michigan. Our women's tennis beat reporter Evan Kamikow was at the IU Tennis Center to cover all the action.
As the month of February is underway, so is the IU women's tennis team's season.
Right, so this weekend with the 3 matches, it's kind of preparing us for the Big Ten tournament and NCAAs later on with 3 matches all within the same weekend. So you kind of have to be able to bounce back from a loss or not as good of a result as you were hoping and not playing as well as you thought you would, and be able to persevere and win the next match, because if we let that, kind of snowball, then these 2 matches could have been bad.
While the season is just getting started, the Hoosiers have gotten off to a bumpy start with losses against Kentucky and Alabama and wins against Xavier, UAB, and Western Michigan. For the season to be very young, there is still a lot of tennis to be played.
We play really good doubles, and I think a lot of it's, it's formations. I think we try to play really aggressive doubles, and our style really holds up no matter who we play against. And so we don't spend a ton of time talking about the other teams in terms of like how we prepare for the doubles. It's more about us sticking to our system and playing the way we want to play.
With a tough Big Ten schedule coming up in the next month, the Hoosiers are feeling very confident about their chances. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Evan Kamikow.
The Hoosiers will be back in action this weekend when they head to Maryland on Friday to take on the United States Naval Academy before heading back home for a doubleheader against Tennessee and Eastern Michigan on Sunday.
Indiana men's tennis is celebrating their Saturday win against the Fighting Irish. Jack Edwards reports on the match showdown.
For a second time in as many home matches, victory at the IU Tennis Center came down to a final showdown. This time it was Carson Haskins and Tristan McCormick dueling it out. Haskins fell down 4-3 in the final set, but with the home crowd behind him, he secured a break and the victory for the Hoosiers.
I just saw toughness, I saw grit, I saw good tennis, so it's just a mix of really being composed in the big moments.
It felt exciting. I haven't been put in that situation before, so I was, enjoying the moment actually, and I was just trying my best to grind out points and just trying to outlast the guy that I was playing, and I eventually came out on top.
The match started off tough for Indiana, losing the doubles point and falling at the 1 and 2 singles. It was down to the bottom 4, and they stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, no, that was awesome that the younger guys stepped up. Worked hard with that group to understand what they're trying to build here at IU, and what a great win for our team.
Notre Dame had won the last 2 matches in the series, with IU picking up their first win since 2012. The win over the Fighting Irish maintains a perfect home record and puts IU 3-2 on the year.
I think as a team we have one goal, and that's just to make the tournament. And after that, hopefully we can win some rounds in the tournament.
It's great. We haven't had wins like this in our program since I've been here. It's been far and few. We beat a lot of teams, in our range where we've fallen a lot, or maybe slightly behind us. But to get wins that are ahead of us like this, I think is huge, especially this early in the season.
For IUS TV Sports, this has been Jack Edwards and Tal Lau.
Tomorrow, the team will hit the road all the way to Middle Tennessee State. The match will start at 5 p.m.
The track and field team hosted the Indiana Relays over the weekend, and 6 different Hoosiers came out with the win in their events. Here's Ari Bruckman with more.
I'm here with Mallory Moser and Jolie Pinkston, who finished first and second respectively in the 800-meter race for the women. Mallory, tell me, what was it like and what does it say about this program to have finished not only on top, but in second as well?
I think it's just kind of nice having a bunch of your teammates in the race and having someone in front of you and all around just to kind of give you confidence throughout the race, because we all practice together and do workouts together. So it's just nice having other people in the race to push you along.
And Jolie, tell me, first win of the season, congratulations on that. But what did you do differently, if anything, to prepare for this race and be mentally ready to go?
Yeah, honestly, I think we've been training hard all season, and some things start to fall in place. I think it was helpful that our teammate Kelsey was able to rabbit us, and we just put our nose in and went racing.
So as you guys look to build on this going forward, what is one thing that kind of brings you guys together that you think you could really focus on here?
I think just focusing on what we do in practice and just being there for each other in practice can just help us in the races, and just kind of working our hardest in practice.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. A lot of great things to look for. Thank you guys for joining us. We wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This weekend, the team will travel up to South Bend to compete in the Mayo Invitational. That does it for our show this week, but don't forget to like our page, IUSTV Sports, on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IUSTV Sports. But before we go, let's give one more shout out to all the awesome women in sports who have paved the way and inspired a new generation of strong women in sports. For Haley Jordan and the entire production team behind me, I'm Maya Engel, and we'll see you next week.